A man dumps foul-smelling fish bait into the sea, hoping to lure in a terrifying great white shark. Soon after, two girls don diving suits and climb into a rusted shark cage. This adrenaline-pumping deep-sea adventure, costing just $100, offers a close encounter with one of the ocean's most fearsome predators. But little do they know, their nightmare is about to begin. As the cage descends to a depth of 5 meters, vibrant schools of fish start to appear. Never having seen such beauty before, the girls are instantly thrilled and can't help but exclaim that the $100 was well spent. Kate quickly pulls out her camera to capture the moment for Lisa. However, as she finishes taking the photo and is about to hand the camera to Lisa to take a picture of herself, she accidentally drops the camera into the deep sea. The two immediately lean over to try and retrieve it. Though losing the camera is unfortunate, their spirits are lifted when they spot a massive shark. They can hardly believe their eyes. They're watching a great white shark, the ocean's top predator. Up close, the shark circles the cage relentlessly, seemingly searching for an opportunity to strike. Kate, feeling bold, even considers reaching out to touch the shark. However, just then, the crane suddenly shook, which scared both of them. Fortunately, it's just a false alarm, and the cage doesn't sink, but the scare leaves Lisa shaken, despite the crew repeatedly assuring her that the winch only slipped and there's nothing to worry about. She feels the cage is unsafe and demands to be pulled back up to the surface. The crew has no choice but to start hoisting them up, while Kate, still eager for more, plans to go back down alone after they return to the boat. But just as the cage reaches the surface, disaster strikes. The winch malfunctions, and the cage plunges uncontrollably downward. Panic-stricken, the girls cling to the cage, screaming for help, but all their efforts are in vain. As the depth increases, the radio signal quickly cuts out. When they reach about 30 meters deep, the cage suddenly jerks to a stop. The force of the impact throws both girls inside, and the immense water pressure causes them to lose consciousness. To make matters worse, the tension on the steel cable proves too much, and it snaps, sending the cage plummeting deeper into the sea. A loud crash follows as the cage hits the seabed at 47 meters, with the fallen winch structure landing directly on top of the cage's exit. It's unclear how much time passes before Kate regains consciousness and wakes Lisa. Seeing their dire situation, Lisa panics and desperately shakes the cage, screaming for help. Kate quickly stops her, urging her to stay calm, warning that the more agitated she becomes, the faster she'll deplete her oxygen. With Kate's reassurance, Lisa finally steadies her breathing. At that moment, faint, intermittent sounds come through the radio, indicating they've drifted out of signal range. Kate decides to leave the cage and try to re-establish contact with the surface, but the exit is pinned down by the iron structure. After struggling in vain, she decides to remove her oxygen tank and squeeze out through the side. Kate manages to slip through with ease, but her oxygen mask gets stuck, preventing her head from passing through. Frustrated, Kate returns to the cage and decides to take the risk of removing the mask. Lisa is worried, but it's their only option. Taking a deep breath, Kate removes the mask. This time, she easily slips out and quickly grabs the mask from Lisa, but holding her breath underwater proves difficult, and Kate soon starts to suffocate. Fortunately, just before she passes out, she manages to put the mask back on and takes deep breaths of oxygen. Once her breathing stabilizes, she straps on her oxygen tank. Before setting off, Kate uses all her strength to move the iron frame off the cage to ensure Lisa can escape if anything happens to her. She then begins to ascend, calling out to the crew on the radio. Surrounded by darkness, she's acutely aware that a shark could appear at any moment. Terrified, Kate continues to ascend. Finally, at around 40 meters, she hears the crew's voice. After learning about their situation, the crew promises to send someone down immediately for rescue. They mention having a backup winch but warn her to return to the cage immediately to avoid a shark attack. They also caution the girls not to rush to the surface unless absolutely necessary, as the sudden pressure change could be fatal. Hearing this, Kate hurries back down to share the good news with Lisa. The two girls crouch silently in the cage, not daring to move, hoping to conserve oxygen and buy time for rescue. But it's not long before they faintly hear the sound of an engine starting. The girls fear the crew is abandoning them, and in a panic, Kate leaves the cage again, ascending and calling out repeatedly. This time, however, there's no response on the radio, only the arrival of a shark. Please. Luckily, Kate notices it in time, avoiding the shark's attack. She frantically swims back toward the cage, but just as she reaches the cage door, an iron chain blocks her way. As the shark closes in, Kate hastily moves the chain aside, opens the door, and slips back into the cage just in time. She narrowly escapes death, but before they can catch their breath, the shark launches another attack. A violent hit deforms the once sturdy cage, and the shark's powerful jaws even crack the iron bars. With the shark about to break through and tear them apart, the girls quickly go still, causing the shark to halt its assault. Though they narrowly escape, an even greater danger looms. Their oxygen is nearly depleted. If they don't reach the surface soon, they'll suffocate even if they aren't eaten by the shark. But they can't risk ascending recklessly. Each level they rise requires a pause for decompression, or they'll face deadly consequences. This process takes at least 5 minutes, with no cover in the open sea. If the shark returns, they'll be doomed. Just as they're sinking into despair, Kate spots something. Upon closer inspection, it's the beam of a flashlight. Instantly, hope flares within them. They believe the crew has come to their rescue, but no matter how much they shout, the light remains in place, unmoving. Kate picks up a stone and bangs it against the cage, trying to get the attention of whoever is holding the flashlight, but there's no response. Could it be that the crew was also attacked by the shark? Determined to find out, Kate decides to risk going out to check, but with her oxygen running low, the exertion will only speed up her consumption. Lisa, who has been staying in the cage, has relatively more oxygen left. Despite her fear, Lisa decides she'll go out this time. To avoid being attacked by the shark, Lisa sticks close to the seabed, cautiously making her way toward the light. But before she's gone far, the radio crackles to life. Kate warns that a shark is rapidly approaching Lisa. Panic sets in, and Lisa desperately searches for a place to hide. Just before the shark strikes, she dives into a crevice. Although she narrowly escapes the shark's jaws, Lisa remains on high alert, scanning her surroundings for any sign of the predator's return. After a while, when all seems quiet, Lisa assumes the shark has left. But just as she's about to peek out, the shark attacks from the side. Realizing she can't stay there any longer, Lisa bolts from the crevice, swiftly hiding behind a rock, making no sound. Fortunately, the shark doesn't spot her and swims in the opposite direction. But after her harrowing escape, Lisa's oxygen is nearly depleted. With no other choice, she continues her journey toward the light. As she draws nearer, Lisa is filled with joy, but to her horror, she finds herself at the edge of a deep, dark abyss. After a moment of hesitation, Lisa forces herself to press on. She finally reaches the source of the light, a flashlight, but there's no sign of the crew. Unable to find anyone, Lisa has no choice but to return. However, she realizes the area is now pitch black, with no landmarks to guide her back. It's then that Lisa understands she's lost. The radio is silent. Kate's voice is gone. Despair and fear engulf her, but she must stay calm and make a decision, trusting her instincts. Lisa picks a direction and starts swimming. All the while, she continues to call out for her friend. Terror-stricken, Lisa searches frantically for any sign of the shark. When she spins around, she's horrified to see the missing crew member suddenly appear behind her. Watching the crew member being dragged away by the shark, Lisa quickly flees. After a frantic search, she finally finds the seabed and hears Kate's voice. But just as she's about to follow Kate's directions back to the cage, she turns around and sees the crew member's corpse. Once again, Lisa is terrified, but she knows she must overcome her fear and retrieve the lifeline from the crew member's body. Along with his spear gun, following Kate's instructions, Lisa finally returns to her side. After briefly explaining the situation, Lisa quickly attaches the lifeline to the cage. Next, all she needs to do is ascend a bit and notify the crew to activate the winch. Thankfully, the process goes smoothly, and she successfully makes contact. Lisa tells them to pull them up quickly, then hurries back to the cage. Not long after she re-enters the cage, the winch starts. As the cage slowly rises, the two finally relax their tense nerves. They're finally leaving this hellish deep-sea abyss. As the cage continues to ascend, they can start to hear the crew's voices. Watching the depth gauge tick upwards, they excitedly begin to count down. Neither notices that the thin cable is starting to fray under the weight. It's not until the cage jolts that they realize something is wrong. Their once joyful mood turns tense again. With a sudden spin, they plummet back down to the ocean floor. Even worse, Lisa's thigh gets pinned under the cage, and the intense pain makes her scream. Kate tries with all her might to free her, but the cage is too heavy. She just can't do it. Kate has no choice but to ascend again and call for help. Upon hearing that they're still alive, The crew says they'll drop down 2 oxygen tanks and have already alerted the Coast Guard. They tell her to return to the cage and wait for rescue. Back in the cage, Kate holds Lisa's hand, reassuring her that they'll be rescued soon. Before long, the oxygen tanks are dropped down. Kate quickly swims out to get them. As she swims, her equipment's alarm goes off. There's less than 2% oxygen left. The moment Kate removes her tank, she begins to struggle for breath. She hastily unscrews the oxygen tank and tries to attach the new one, but in her oxygen-deprived state, the seemingly simple task becomes incredibly difficult. Just as she's about to lose consciousness, Kate finally gets the new tank connected and opens the valve. As the oxygen flows through her mask, she instantly feels relief. Once she's breathing normally again, Kate finds a few glow sticks in her bag, but just as she puts the glow sticks in her bag and prepares to return with the other tank, Lisa suddenly screams that there's a shark. Kate lies flat on the ground, not daring to move, as the shark is right above her. When the shark disappears from view and the cage is within reach, Kate tries to make a quick dash back to safety, but the shark suddenly returns. In an instant, it grabs her and vanishes. Lisa screams in terror, frantically calling Kate's name, but the radio remains silent. All that's left is an oxygen tank lying on the ocean floor, devastated by the loss of her friend. Lisa weeps helplessly in the dark depths of the sea. She tries to free her leg from under the cage, but all her efforts are in vain. To make matters worse, her oxygen is almost depleted. The new oxygen tank is just out of reach, yet it feels so far away. Lisa then notices the spear gun next to the cage. She stretches out, trying to grab it, hoping to use it to hook the oxygen tank. She doesn't realize the trigger is caught on a screw. Finally reaching the spear gun, she pulls hard, and her is covered in blood, but she ignores the pain, focusing on hooking the tank. After countless failed attempts, she finally catches the tank's neck. Enduring the pain in her hand, she carefully reels it in. At that moment, her equipment's alarm goes off. She's completely out of oxygen. She quickly opens the cage door and pulls the tank inside. Lisa then removes her empty tank and starts the replacement process. As she tries to hold her breath and screw in the hose, the suffocating sensation overwhelms her. The lack of oxygen causes her heart to race, and her vision begins to blur. Driven by sheer survival instinct, she manages to attach the hose. As she opens the valve, Lisa finally breathes in the much-needed oxygen. She gulps down air greedily, the suffocating pain easing. Lisa feels incredibly relieved, and before she knows it, she drifts off to sleep. When she opens her eyes again, she hears Kate's faint voice calling for help through the radio. Overjoyed, Lisa can't believe Kate is still alive. But Kate's situation is dire. She's badly injured, bleeding, and a shark could find her at any moment, and her oxygen is nearly depleted. Lisa tries to comfort Kate, urging her to breathe slowly to conserve oxygen. She promises to come and find her soon. Then Lisa suddenly remembers her inflatable vest. Maybe she could use it to lift the cage. Sure enough, when she places the vest under the cage and inflates it, the cage lifts slightly. Lisa quickly digs away the surrounding sand. Ignoring the searing pain, she slowly frees her leg inch by inch. As her skin scrapes against the cage, her thigh begins to bleed profusely. The pain causes her to cry out in agony, but she finally breaks free from the cage's grip. Without wasting a moment, she grabs the flashlight and begins searching. Lisa proceeds cautiously, fearing the terrifying shark might return at any moment. Soon, she spots a faint light. Following its glow, Lisa finally finds Kate lying beside a rock. The water around Kate is stained red with blood. She could die from blood loss at any moment. Without hesitation, Lisa grabs Kate and begins swimming upwards. On the way, they ignite a flare to ward off any approaching sharks. Finally, after ascending some distance, they establish contact with the fishing boat. The crew warns them not to ascend too quickly unless absolutely necessary. They must slow their ascent and stop at intervals to adjust to the water pressure, or they risk decompression sickness. Following the instructions, they continue to rise. When they reach a depth of 20 meters, they stop to decompress. At this point, the flare burns out, and Lisa urges Kate to light another one. However, Kate accidentally drops the flare, leaving only one remaining in the bag. Lisa hands Kate the flashlight and lights the last flare herself. As the flare ignites, she sees that several terrifying sharks have gathered around them. Fortunately, the sharks are afraid of the flare, but the danger isn't over yet. The sharks start attacking from all directions, and Lisa waves the flare frantically to keep them at bay. After a tense standoff, The last flare burns out. The situation is now critical. They can't continue decompressing and have no choice but to remove their oxygen tanks and make a desperate swim for the surface. A shark immediately lunges at them, but it gets distracted by the oxygen tanks. The two desperately wave their limbs, and finally they floated to the surface safely. With the fishing boat right in front of them, Lisa shouts for help, and the crew quickly throws down a life buoy. As they grab hold of the life buoy, the crew pulls them toward the boat with all their might, but no one notices the massive figure approaching them. The shark opens its jaws wide, dragging Lisa into the water, its sharp teeth tearing into her thigh, but she doesn't give up, fighting with all her strength to escape the shark's grip. The crew, seeing this, urgently pulls on the rope. As they near the boat, other crew members reach out to help. Just when it seems they're about to be saved, Lisa is pulled under again. The shark viciously tears at Lisa's body, turning the deep blue sea red with blood, and in the chaos, she accidentally stabs the shark in the eye. The shark, after the frenzied attack, surprisingly lets her go. Finally, both women are successfully pulled onto the boat. The crew quickly tends to their wounds. At that moment, Lisa looks at her hand, shocked to see the blood drifting away. Uncontrollably, she starts to laugh strangely, and then everything around her begins to blur. The scene shifts. Lisa finds herself back in the deep sea, still trapped in the cage. It turns out everything that just happened was a hallucination caused by oxygen intoxication after she changed the tank. She was never rescued, and Kate had long been killed by the shark. Lisa remains lost in her delusion until a light appears, the Coast Guard, finally arriving. As they call out to her, Lisa slowly opens her eyes, and they quickly free her from the cage. Lisa is finally saved, a look of relief and joy crossing her face. The Coast Guard then helps her slowly swim toward the surface.